Hi everyone, it's Han here. I hope you can hear me. Oh, I really needed to talk about this. I have I've joined a group on Facebook and it's to do with a niche thing. It's nothing to do with politics. It's to do with singing. And there was a discussion this morning about how Porgy and Bess, the cast in Hungary, is all white. Now, Porgy and Bess was written by George Gershwin, um, and he wrote it with black singers in mind because it is about the plight of black people in the 1930s in the Deep South, etc. Um, and now they're staging it with an all-white cast in Hungary. Kind of silly, I think. That they're supposed to be black. It's supposed to look a certain way, It's the same as when they use black actors in Shakespeare and Phantom of the Opera. It kind of looks weird. But I realized that this is about black oppression. So it's kind of different to black people playing white actors when it has nothing to do with race. Like, this is actually about race. So I get it, and I get why it's silly and it doesn't make sense, and it could be offensive as well. But this just all highlighted a topic that I've been thinking about for a while. Um, so moving on from this, on this singers forum, rather than discuss the topic at hand, people took the opportunity to say, huh, people who think like this, people who would let this happen, I'm sure they voted for Trump and, all of that stuff. And I pulled this man up and I said, what do you mean? What's that got to do with anything? Well, have you never heard of transphobia, misogyny, xenophobia, racism, systematic oppression? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it was just a complete non sequitur, not to mention the fact that he was talking crap, right? Oh, and I do hasten to add, it's very easy for me to say, oh, this is what left liberals say, this is like a leftist thing. And it's not. It's not really. It is to do with left and right in a sense, but it's more complicated than that. Again, it's cultural Marxism, it's complete indoctrination, and it happens on the right too. And there are left-wing people who are more well, at least more able to critically think. But yeah. So anyway, we got into this whole thing, and this guy, he's a white guy. I believe he was American, and he said, well, women are oppressed, blacks are oppressed. I said, hang on a minute. Can you name an area where these minorities of people don't have equal rights? And that is the issue, all right? There's two separate issues going on here. To be a decent human being with common sense would say, okay, so these minority groups, they need to have equal legal rights, because that's just you obviously, that's just obvious, all right? You're not going to say, well, if you're black, you're not allowed to, you're going to get arrested if you use the road, or if you're a woman, you're going to get arrested if you drive a car, but it's just solely because you're a woman, but men are able to do that. Like, there's none of that. That has been stamped out in this country. And I do appreciate the argument where some men are now, and women actually, are coming out and saying, men and women shouldn't have equal legal rights, because they don't have equal responsibility in this society. And I'm going to do a separate video on that, okay? Because I do like the idea of that argument. I think it's something to be explored. But for all intents and purposes, all of these minority groups have equal rights, okay? Now, so what you're talking about here is not equal rights, it's thought policing. Of course, it's thought policing. But again, gender, like sex, gets lumped in with things like transsexualism, and then in the same breath, it's also xenophobia. This is where it all starts to fall down, because the same people who defend people against xenophobia also defend people against homophobia. And quite often, homophobic ideas come from the religious community. So that doesn't make sense either. Oh, of course, as long as they're not Christians, they don't count. It's just minority religions that matter. Um, but again, all this from a white man, right? So he doesn't even belong to any of these groups. But the fact that he could sit there and talk about my group, like, oh, there's misogyny in this country. And I said to him, do you know what? Stop telling me that everybody hates me. Stop telling me that men hate me. I am not oppressed. I have equal rights to you. And I don't need somebody to sit there and tell me that I'm a victim, because I'm not. And it's the same with Black people. When are we going to stop telling Black people that everybody hates them? That is oppression. That is racism. It's this patronizing, you're lower than me. You're not very bright, so I'm going to stand up for you in the way that I feel fit. Kind of sickly white middle class guilt, virtue signaling, just weird behavior. And that's what we do. We do that with minority groups. We tell people, reinforce the idea that everybody hates them. And I believe that causes trauma. And women have been getting told this for a long time. And it's time for us ladies to go, actually, we're not oppressed and we do have equal rights. Now then, that's actually not true, because men do not have as many rights as women in the family law system and in the divorce courts. And I told this man that. I said, rather than trying to stick up for me, who's not a victim, and rather than trying to stick up for all of these minority groups who you don't have anything to do with and who are not being legally oppressed, sorry, why don't you stick up for your own group who is being legally oppressed, and doesn't have as much legal rights as everybody else? It's about legal rights. Fuck attitudes. It's I can think what I want, okay? As long as I'm not aggressing against anybody, I can think what I want and I can say what I want. These people, they think that, oh, well, not everybody's positive about gay people, and some people criticize them, so that means that they don't have legal rights and the government should do something about it. That is the logic of these, I don't want to say leftist people, but these brainwashed people. That's the logic. It's really ridiculous and it's completely brainwashed. And to actually see a man sitting there saying this, I mean, the MGTOWs would say the word, what, simp, cook, I don't know, but it was extremely weak of him. And the fact that I had to call him out as a woman, I didn't have to. I could have just not said anything, but I just found it absolutely ridiculous. And I really hope that more people start standing up to this. And I'm glad that there are people standing up to it. And we just need to keep doing it. Thanks for listening.